When we think of the Taliban, most of us imagine war, destruction, and chaos. But what if the same group is now trying to rebuild a country they once destroyed? Taliban regained control of Afghanistan in 2021, and the world braced for a return to the darkness of the 1990s. International recognition was withheld, aid was frozen, and the country's economy collapsed almost overnight. Yet, amid the isolation, something unexpected began to take shape. Instead of presiding over decay, the Taliban have sought to rebuild. With few resources, minimal international support, and a fractured state, they have launched a series of ambitious infrastructure projects meant to reshape the nation's landscape and assert legitimacy. From canals and dams to railways and energy ventures, these projects reveal how the Taliban are trying to transform their image from insurgents to state builders. Whether they succeed is uncertain, but their efforts are real, and they're already changing Afghanistan's physical and political map. The most striking of these undertakings is the Qosh Tepa Canal, a vast engineering effort in the country's north, stretching approximately 285 kilometers across Qosh, Jozjan, and Faryab provinces. The canal aims to divert water from the Amu Darya River, a major waterway that marks Afghanistan's northern border with Uzbekistan and Turkmenistan. The Taliban government promotes the canal as a lifeline for Afghanistan's agriculture, which has long been dependent on unpredictable rainfall and limited irrigation. When completed, Qosh Tepa could irrigate hundreds of thousands of hectares of arid farmland, potentially turning desert plains into productive agricultural zones. The project carries enormous symbolic weight. It represents the first large-scale hydrologic project fully under Taliban supervision and signals their determination to control the nation's natural resources without foreign oversight. Yet, it is also one of the most controversial. Downstream countries, particularly Uzbekistan, have expressed alarm that diverting Amu Darya water could reduce flow to their own farmland and disrupt existing regional water agreements. The Taliban's engineers are pressing on despite these concerns, using rudimentary construction methods and limited equipment. Reports indicate significant losses from seepage and questionable long-term sustainability due to a lack of concrete lining in much of the canal. Still, the Taliban celebrate each phase of construction as a triumph of self-reliance, even if the technical quality may be compromised. The Qosh Tepa Canal thus embodies the paradox of the Taliban's development drive: ambition unrestrained by expertise and national pride shadowed by regional tension. Equally ambitious, though less visible, is the $10 billion energy and power initiative that the Taliban signed with the private company Azizi Energy. This sweeping memorandum of understanding seeks to develop a diversified energy grid powered by solar, hydro, wind, and thermal sources. The Taliban's goal is to generate up to 10,000 megawatts of electricity, a staggering figure considering Afghanistan's current total capacity hovers around just a few hundred megawatts. In theory, this plan would not only electrify much of the country, but also enable the export of power to neighboring states. The project is being touted by Taliban officials as evidence that Afghanistan can attract investment and build modern infrastructure, even in the absence of formal international recognition. It fits neatly into the regime's broader narrative of transformation, from a guerrilla movement to a governing authority focused on development. Yet behind the rhetoric lie formidable challenges. Afghanistan's financial system remains crippled by sanctions. The government lacks technical specialists to design and maintain large-scale power facilities, and investor confidence is fragile. Many foreign companies fear both the security situation and the reputational risk of dealing with an unrecognized regime. Nonetheless, the Taliban appear determined to proceed, leveraging domestic private capital and diaspora networks to fund early-stage projects, particularly solar farms in southern and eastern provinces. If even part of this initiative materializes, it could reduce Afghanistan's reliance on imported electricity from Central Asia, which currently accounts for more than 70% of national consumption. More importantly, it would reinforce the Taliban's claim that they are capable of building rather than destroying, an image they are eager to project both domestically and abroad.
Another cornerstone of the Taliban's reconstruction agenda lies in water management and hydropower development. Afghanistan's rivers have long held enormous potential for energy generation and irrigation, but decades of war, underinvestment, and poor governance left that potential largely untapped. The Taliban are now trying to change that through a series of dam projects, some newly built and others revived from earlier government plans.
The Pashtan Dam in Herat province, inaugurated in 2025, is among the first completed under Taliban rule. Although its capacity is modest, producing around 2 megawatts of electricity and supplying irrigation water to nearby farms, its political value is far greater. It serves as a proof of concept that the Taliban can execute and finish a civil engineering project, however small, in cooperation with local technical teams. The Bakhshabad Dam, located in Farah province, is a much larger endeavor still under construction. When completed, it is expected to generate around 27 megawatts of power and create a large reservoir to support irrigation across western Afghanistan. The project has been years in the making, but under the Taliban it has gained renewed momentum, with engineers returning to work sites that were previously abandoned due to conflict. Near Kabul, the Shahwa Arus Dam was completed in late 2024 after years of delays. It provides both irrigation water and roughly 1.2 megawatts of electricity, serving as a vital local resource for nearby communities. Each of these dams carries economic promise, but also ecological and social risks: displacement of villages, alteration of river flows, and potential downstream conflicts with neighboring countries. Yet to the Taliban, these projects represent tangible progress, visible infrastructure that symbolizes control over land, water, and livelihoods. The image of a completed dam resonates deeply in a country where control of territory has always been linked to legitimacy. Beyond domestic infrastructure, the Taliban are also seeking regional integration through energy and transport corridors. The Turkmenistan-Afghanistan-Pakistan-India pipeline is perhaps the most geopolitically significant example. Originally conceived in the 1990s, the pipeline aims to transport natural gas from Turkmenistan's massive Galkanish field across Afghanistan into Pakistan and India, covering a total distance of more than 1,800 kilometers. Afghanistan's stretch of the pipeline spans roughly 800 kilometers and would bring in hundreds of millions of dollars annually in transit fees. For years, insecurity and political instability prevented construction. Now, under Taliban rule, officials insist that the security situation has improved enough to resume work. They have pledged protection for construction crews in coordination with Turkmen authorities to advance the Afghan segment. For the Taliban, completing their part of Tapi would be more than an economic victory. It would symbolize Afghanistan's return to regional relevance and its role as a connector between Central and South Asia. However, the obstacles remain immense. Financing the Afghan section is difficult under sanctions, and each neighboring country must navigate the delicate question of engaging with an unrecognized government. Moreover, insurgent attacks, though reduced, have not disappeared entirely, posing risks to any large-scale infrastructure traversing multiple provinces. Still, the Taliban's commitment to Tapi reflects their desire to position Afghanistan as a trade and energy corridor rather than an isolated backwater. Whether or not the pipeline reaches completion, the Taliban's insistence on promoting it reveals how they are reframing Afghanistan's strategic identity. Closely linked to Tapi is a wider set of connectivity and transport initiatives. The Taliban leadership has repeatedly emphasized the importance of linking Afghanistan's rugged interior to its neighbors through rail and road networks. Among the flagship examples is the Kaf-Herat Railway, connecting western Afghanistan with Iran. Portions of this line were completed before the Taliban takeover, but they have since pledged to extend it further eastward, potentially connecting it with the larger Trans-Afghanistan Railway that would link Uzbekistan to Pakistan through Afghan territory. This broader network, if realized, would transform Afghanistan from a landlocked country into a land-linked one, serving as a bridge for regional trade. Taliban officials frequently highlight these projects in public statements, aware that visible transportation infrastructure, tracks, stations, and trains, provides tangible proof of governance. The regime has also focused on improving road corridors that connect major cities like Kabul, Kandahar, and Mazar-e-Sharif. Many of these routes were damaged by years of conflict, and reconstruction remains patchy, but the Taliban's emphasis on transport reflects their broader goal of consolidating control and stimulating commerce. Foreign investment, however, is limited. Few countries are willing to fund large-scale construction under Taliban authority, leaving projects dependent on domestic budgets that are already stretched thin. Nevertheless, even incremental progress serves the Taliban's narrative that Afghanistan is open for business and capable of functioning independently.
Taken together, these 5 projects, the Qosh Tepa Canal, the $10 billion energy initiative, the dams, the Tapi pipeline, and the regional rail and road efforts, form a mosaic of the Taliban's state-building ambitions. They are not isolated efforts, but components of a larger strategy to create economic self-sufficiency, assert sovereignty, and project stability to both Afghans and the outside world. Each project addresses a fundamental national need: water, energy, transport, and revenue. At the same time, each exposes the limits of Taliban governance. The absence of international recognition restricts access to financing, skilled labor, and advanced technology. Corruption and mismanagement persist. The Taliban's social policies, especially their restrictions on women and their confrontational stance toward global norms, deter foreign partners who might otherwise engage economically. Even within Afghanistan, skepticism remains about whether these infrastructure drives will truly benefit ordinary people or simply reinforce Taliban control. Rural communities displaced by dam reservoirs or canal construction often receive little compensation, and environmental assessments are minimal or non-existent. Yet despite all these contradictions, the fact remains that construction is happening. Bulldozers are digging, concrete is being poured, power pylons are rising. For a country long synonymous with destruction, the very act of building is profoundly symbolic. The Taliban understand this symbolism well. In speeches, their leaders frequently frame development projects as proof of divine favor and national pride. They emphasize self-reliance and portray the West's withdrawal as an opportunity to chart a new path free from foreign influence. Their state media features videos of ministers inspecting construction sites, showcasing cranes and excavators as icons of progress. It is a carefully crafted image designed to shift the global narrative, from an insurgency ruling through fear to a government forging a new Afghanistan with its own hands. To their supporters, this image inspires confidence. To their critics, it is propaganda masking economic desperation. The truth lies somewhere in between. These projects may not yet herald a new Afghan miracle, but they do demonstrate a degree of administrative capacity and ambition that many outside observers did not expect. They also reveal a pragmatic streak within the Taliban leadership, which recognizes that maintaining control over a nation requires more than ideology. It requires roads, water, and electricity. Still, the sustainability of this reconstruction push remains uncertain. Without technical oversight and long-term maintenance, many of these projects risk falling into disrepair. The Qosh Tepa Canal, for example, could lose up to half its water through unlined sections, reducing its effectiveness. Dams require constant monitoring and sediment management, which Afghanistan's institutions are ill-equipped to provide. Energy projects demand a stable grid and skilled operators, both scarce commodities. Moreover, regional tensions over shared water and energy resources could intensify as Afghanistan expands its infrastructure footprint. Uzbekistan and Turkmenistan have already voiced unease over reduced Amu Darya flow, while Pakistan and India remain cautious about the political reliability of the Taliban regarding Tapi. International donors, constrained by sanctions, can offer little assistance even when projects serve regional interests. In this environment, Afghanistan's rebuilding is as much a political statement as it is an economic program. Yet in the absence of recognition, aid, or global media attention, the Taliban's building drive has gone largely unnoticed. The international narrative still focuses on human rights violations and political repression, and rightly so, but overlooks the parallel story of a regime attempting to transform itself through construction. For Afghans on the ground, these projects are not abstract policies, they are physical realities shaping their daily lives. A farmer in Balkh may now see irrigation channels cutting through once dry fields. A shopkeeper in Herat might soon have slightly more reliable electricity. A trader traveling from Kabul to Kandahar encounters new stretches of repaired road. These are modest changes, but in a country exhausted by war, even modest change can feel monumental. Whether this rebuilding effort ultimately succeeds or collapses under its own contradictions will define the next chapter of Afghanistan's story. The Taliban's quest to be seen as state builders may earn them limited legitimacy at home, but without addressing broader issues, women's rights, education, governance transparency, and inclusion, their international isolation will persist. Still, the fact that Afghanistan is being reshaped by bulldozers rather than bombs, at least in some regions, marks a shift worth noting. It suggests that even in the most unlikely of circumstances, a movement once synonymous with destruction can attempt construction, even if imperfectly. So while the world may not be watching, Afghanistan is changing, one canal, one dam, one rail line at a time. And in the silence of that transformation, the Taliban are writing a new narrative for their rule, one built not on war, but on the foundations they are pouring into the earth.